In the early 90s, I was going through a fairly rough time in my life. I was coming out of a failed marriage, father of 3 young daughters with limited visitation rights and struggling to make ends meet. And this really wasn't how I thought my life was going to be. My new girlfriend, Karen, and I were starting to get a little more serious about our relationship, and I was worried that it might not end well because I was still bringing myself into that relationship and all my baggage, and I didn't want to fail at being a husband. Through a friend of a friend, I got an invite to a new church in Cherry Hill. At the time I thought, I need to get my kids into church. I was not a Christian, but I thought church might do my kids some good. I'd grown up going to a denominational church and stopped attending when I became a teen. In that time, I'm not sure I even heard the gospel. When the church invite came, it had probably been 20 years since I attended a church other than the occasional baptism, wedding, or funeral. So that Sunday, some 18 plus years ago, I came to what was at the time called Community Life Church. This was quite a new experience for me. Never before had I seen people so moved by the songs they were singing in church. People were actually clapping. Are you allowed to clap in church? I didn't know. Never before had a sermon really pierced my heart or been so relative to my life and what I was going through at the time. That Sunday really stirred something in my heart. God was at work. The next several weeks after that initial visit were a whirlwind for me, really. I found a Christian bookstore and I bought a Bible. I read it every chance I got. I attended Community Life Church regularly and brought my Bible with me each Sunday. Suddenly it all seemed to make sense. God was real and He wasn't pleased with how I was living my life. Although I thought I was a good person up to that point, I now realized that I was a sinner and deserving of God's wrath and judgment. And that's why Jesus came, to take the wrath that I deserve. So in my reading, I came upon Romans 10, 9 and 10, that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. So one quiet evening, I prayed that Jesus would come into my life and be my Savior, and I committed to living my life for Him. God used that simple extended invitation to ultimately open the eyes of my heart and alter the course that my life was taking. He began a work in me that Sunday that led to my salvation and continues in me to this day. Later that year, I was baptized. Karen also recommitted her life to God, and we joined a care group, or what we now call community groups, and later became members of the church. Warren married us on December 2nd, 1995. Our family grew when in 2003 Stephen was adopted, and then 2 years later Mickey was adopted and came home, both of them from Guatemala. And in many ways, adoption is a picture and a constant reminder to us of how God has adopted us into His family. Fast forward now several years, and when we heard last year of the Philly church plant, God began stirring both our hearts to the mission, but independently. I was thinking, God, if you want us to go on this church plant, then stir Karen's heart. What I didn't know is that she was praying the same thing about me. God did move both of our hearts to give us a vision and provide it for us on this mission. I am overwhelmed by how good God has been to me and my family, and I want the people of South Philly to experience and know the same God. In many ways, it feels like I'm coming around full circle. I realize that a simple invite or a chance meeting can lead to a saved soul and a changed life, and I'm living proof of that. I look forward to seeing the gospel advancing around us and to the testimonies of those who meet and experience their new Savior, all for His glory.